Okay, real quick, we're going to talk about some Christian nationalist stuff that I've been exposed to recently. So I mentioned a guy, I think he's a preacher by the name of Joel Webbin. I think it's Webbin. He recently gave a talk, an interview, had a sit down with the boys where he talked about our need to crush our neighbors. Our need to crush our enemies. He's like, that's what it has to be. When we get power, we must crush our enemies. We must crush our enemies. That's what it's for. That's what we're called to do. That's what we need to do. We need to crush our enemies. And then, I don't know, maybe a day or so later, some other fella showed up in my algorithm, and he was talking about something similar. He said, when Christians come into power, we must be merciless. We must absolutely be merciless. We must show no mercy to anyone. We must, again, crush our enemies, and we need to hold on, got to do whatever it takes to hold on to power. So once we get power, we got to do everything we can to possibly hold on to it. Everything is acceptable. Now, this guy was interesting because he had this big grin on his face all the time, all the while that he was talking. And I thought, I wonder if he is just pulling our leg. I wonder if he is just saying this stuff as a joke. I wonder if he's just saying this stuff to be funny, if he's just being ironic. Or I wonder if he's just saying this stuff. He doesn't believe this stuff. Like, it was one of those smiles you see on a person's face when you know they don't believe what it is they're saying. But I wonder, is he just saying, he doesn't really believe what it is he's saying, but he's saying it because he knows he's going to get the clicks. He knows that he's going to get the fanboys are going to be all over him. He knows that he's going to get the likes and the shares from his fans, and he knows that the left is going to pick up on it too, and they're going to condemn him. And when they condemn him, they're going to make him famous. I don't know, but he said it. So the concept, this idea that we should crush our enemies, this idea that Christians should have no mercy, whether or not it's in government, whether or not it's a situation of a Christian being in power. At no point in a Christian life, I can't stress this enough. At no point in a Christian life are we ever supposed to want to crush our enemies. We may want to crush them because we are human, and it is difficult being a Christian. But at no point, as Christians, are we supposed to crush our enemies. At no point are we supposed to have zero mercy, zero compassion, zero sympathy. We are always supposed to be people of mercy. We are always supposed to be people of compassion and sympathy. I'd argue empathy, though some Christians don't like that. We're supposed to be that. We are indeed called to love our enemies, not crush them, not destroy them, not punish them, not ostracize them, cast them aside, not isolate them, imprison them, not exile them, expel them. We are called to love them. And as a matter of fact, we're called to pray for those who persecute us. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Those people who are out there actively and intentionally trying to harm you, we are to pray for them. And I don't mean, dear Lord, please help a comet to fall down on their heads. I mean, pray for them. Dear Lord, bless them and watch over them and protect them. Dear Lord, love them, forgive them. Lord, may your mercy be upon them. We're supposed to pray earnestly for them. Again, we're not to call down and say, oh, dear Lord, please let a bird poop on their head. We're actually supposed to call God's blessings down upon them. Now, I think you can all sort of get behind that, but I stumbled across a meme the other day on Facebook. It says, beware of any Christian movement that insists it has so many enemies to conquer rather than so many neighbors to love. And in the context of what I heard these Christian nationalists talk about, it's sort of fit, right? Because here are these people who profess their Christianity, they profess their faith, they profess to be followers of Jesus Christ, who at the exact same time are telling us that there are many enemies out there for us to be afraid of. There are many enemies out there for us to destroy. There are many enemies out there for us to conquer. We shouldn't have any mercy on them. We shouldn't have any care for them. We should just take from them, and we need to make sure that we crush them underfoot. And this isn't an uncommon message within Christianity, that we have enemies. And that's kind of what I want to get at here today. Christians, we're called to love our enemies. Pray for those who persecute us. We're called to take care of our neighbors. But I think in the end, what Jesus is actually getting to here is that we are supposed to grow. Again, it's difficult, but we're supposed to grow as Christians, reaching for the standard, the goal being that I never see an enemy. That no matter who a person is, no matter what a person has done to me, no matter what a person is actively, intentionally trying to do to me, I'm to see them as my neighbor, and I'm to treat them as my neighbor. And Jesus tells us we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. The goal, I think, is to never see another enemy, to never recognize another enemy, to never give anybody that kind of, to never label somebody as an enemy. The goal, again, it's difficult. The concept that the concept that comes from Christian nationalism, that the idea that comes from Christian nationalism that we should crush anyone, is antithetical to the Christian life. The idea that we should have no mercy for a particular person, regardless of how awful that person is. We're supposed to practice mercy. We're supposed to practice it. We're supposed to try to push ourselves to be more and more and more and more and more merciful. We're not supposed to ever say, I'm withholding my mercy because I'm a Christian and you are undeserving of it. We're supposed to practice the idea that everybody is deserving of our mercy, that everyone is deserving of our compassion, that everyone is deserving of our love. When we bump into those folks out there, those preachers out there, those teachers out there, those Christian teachers out there who are expressing something like this, that we have an enemy to conquer, remember what Jesus' words are. When you bump into somebody out there and they say, we are under attack by an enemy, remember Jesus' words. When you bump into those folks who are teaching, who are preaching, who are calling the church to rise up, to crush this group of people or that group of people, or people who believe like that, or people who follow that other god, or remember what Jesus says. Remember what Jesus says about our enemies, and remember what Jesus says about our neighbors, and see that Jesus says we should love our neighbors, and Jesus says we should love our enemies. And if Jesus says we should love them and we should love them, then maybe what Jesus is telling us is that we should see them all the same. The goal of the Christian life is not to crush anyone. The goal of the Christian life is not to withhold mercy. The goal of the Christian life is certainly not to maintain power over others, maintain earthly, worldly power over others. The goal of the Christian life is to practice Practice loving and practice trusting and practice being merciful and compassionate and practice nurturing and practice caring and practice sympathy and practice forgiving to such an extent that we no longer see, we no longer recognize, we no longer believe that we have an enemy. Amen.